Today's video we're going to be going over the 6 arc, and specifically we are going to be playing around with the 105 Hornady Aeromatch bullets that they just released not that long ago. At the time of this video they may be out for a few months, but it takes a while to get these out, so we can't do them immediately. But we're going to be testing a bunch of different powders in this gas gun. This is actually a proof 6mm arc barrel. I believe it's 16 inches. I'll have to look and see what the twist rate is, and I'll put that in the description. So with that being said, all of the components, equipment, and everything that we use in these videos, I put those details in the description of the video. So for those of you that are interested in what we're using to do these tests and the parameters and whatnot, I put that in the description so you can always read that stuff there. So today, we're going to be specifically testing that Aeromatch bullet using the powders I'm about to tell you. Varget, TAC, Stayball Match, Stayball 6.5, Lever Evolution, CFE 223, BLC 2, 2520, and 2460. I'll go over exact charge weights as we shoot them, and I will tell you where we're going to shoot out on the paper. This is going to be kind of an interesting environment to test this in because it's sort of windy today. So number one, that's always kind of a pain in the butt, but two, it's actually going to help us with Mirage because of the can. But it's so slippery because the ice is so slick that my shooting mat is actually just kind of gliding all over the place, and I'm really not used to that. So the rear bag is going to be interesting to work with. The bipod, I can kind of anchor it because these Skypods have like claw feet, so that helps tremendously. But the ice and the shooting mat moving around as much as it is, it's going to be interesting. So I don't really know how it's going to go, but the first thing that we're going to start with is 24.5 grains of Varget. This rifle kind of had a weird start. I was having some gas issues, and this all could be my fault, but basically I ended up changing the bolt, and it seemed like it kind of fixed the issue, but I think we have to run it with the can, otherwise I'm nervous that it's not going to cycle like at all. So we're going to run it with the suppressor, mainly for reliability's sake, and we're really just trying to test the accuracy on this bullet through the 6 arc specifically. So I don't want to deal with functionality issues just for the sake of making the video seamless. But we're shooting it roughly 100 yards. It's a little bit shorter than that, but we're going to call it 100 just for simplicity's sake. Got a GoPro on the target. I'm probably going to go for the center of the target, but we might have a weird point of impact error because I'm not really sure where this is going to hit. My guess is high, but we're going to go for the center and just start with that. So 24.5 grains of Varget. This is the only charge that we have 5 rounds loaded. We are using Alpha Brass CCI 450s. These are loaded to 2.250 overall length, and the powders are going to vary, but with that 105 Aeromatch bullet. So let's go ahead and get started. We're going to go for that center target, or the center diamond, I should say, and we're just going to try to put 5 rounds on target, and then if our point of impact is a little weird, we'll move it as needed. Okay, so fortunately our impact was actually almost completely dead on. That first velocity was 2158, so these are pretty dang slow. We already had a jam, and I almost wonder, we may not be able to even run this test because all these charge weights might be too low, seeing as we're already having issues with cycling. Yeah, so that chewed up that piece of brass pretty good. We're going to try to run another one. I'm going to go ahead and move this brass catcher out of the way just to make sure it wasn't the fault of the brass catcher. And if this next one jams, then might just have to single feed these, unfortunately, because they're probably just not high enough charge weights, which is my fault. But I'm new to the cartridge, so I'm usually pretty conservative when we're trying something new. 2144. 2142, 2152, and 2152. So the velocities were actually incredibly consistent, although very slow. The ejection pattern's definitely not suggesting that these were under-gassed, but you guys kind of know how that can be. So we're going to go over the velocity real quick. So although the velocities on these were really consistent, the group kind of sucked, or rather, what I should say is, although the accuracy sucked, the velocity was really consistent, because it sounds like you're ending on a good note, you know what I mean? But the average velocity was 2150, extreme spread of 16, and a standard deviation of 6. So obviously really, really stable velocity as far as like, we're not having big swings. but the accuracy pretty well sucked. So definitely nothing to get excited about up to this point. But we're going to be moving on to a bunch of different powders here, so might turn this bullet in this gun to a completely different animal, but it may just really not like this barrel too, so we might see a lot of this. I have no idea. And this gun is probably, I think I've put 15 shots on the barrel, so this barrel's not broken by any means. It's pretty well brand new. But we're going to be moving on here to some tack powder. It's going to be 25.0 grains of tack. We're going to be shooting 3-shot groups for the rest of the test. Okay, we're going to be going for the top left diamond here. 23.48, so we've already jumped up quite a bit in the velocity. 22.33. 22.27. So I didn't really pay much attention to the velocity on that one as far as like shot to shot, but it was pretty bad. Like the velocity consistency was all over the place. So our minimum was 22.27, our max was 23.47. So I think that first shot was way faster than the rest, but nonetheless we had a average velocity of 22.69, extreme spread of 120, and a standard deviation of 56. So that's awful. Now, I kind of screwed up when I did this because normally I try to shoot either the fastest to the slowest powder or vice versa, but I didn't actually put these in order this time. I kind of goofed up and forgot to organize them before I come out here to shoot this. So looking at these powders, they are not in order from fastest to slowest burn rate. I'm not talking about velocity, but burn rate specifically. It's easier for me to do that to see where a barrel in bullet combo typically will like to be as far as the burn speed on the powder, because here lately especially we've been seeing a lot of powders where you'll get those really inconsistent velocities on the top and the bottom end, and then there's like a sweet spot where there's several powders that are pretty darn consistent. You can tell that they're getting a full burn or at least close to it, and they're staying very consistent as far as not having a high min and max charge. So even with a few shots, you should usually be able to tell, like, hey, this powder's doing really good as far as the burn range that it's in. But so far, our accuracy is kind of garbage. Nothing has shot good. Obviously, we've only shot 2 groups so far, but both of them sucked. So the velocity consistency on that one was terrible, and so was the accuracy. So it just kind of was crap all the way around. Now, the next powder that we're going to be shooting is going to be Stay Ball Match powder, and we're going to be shooting 26.0 grains of that. We're going to be going for the top of the center diamond. All right, 26.0 grains of Stay Ball Match. All right, so we did not chamber around, I'm assuming. Correct. $21.76. 21.92 and 21.97. All right, velocity consistency on that one was a lot better. The groups are still not good, so we're hoping to see something halfway decent by the end of this test, but it ain't looking good so far. So average muzzle velocity of 21.88, extreme spread of 21, and a standard deviation of 9. So that was really good as far as consistency and velocity, but these groups are just all over the place, so I don't really know what's going on, but maybe something will shoot good by the end of the day, but I really just think his barrel doesn't like his bullet so far. So 2 things that are really good about being really cold right now. One, the brass, we don't have to worry about the brass catcher because it's a sheet of ice basically right now. So it's so cold that when the brass is hitting the ice, it's sinking about 1/8 of an inch and then just sitting on top. So we don't really have to worry about losing it in the snow, because usually when you shoot and the brass gets hot, it just kind of sinks to the bottom and then it's hard to find. But right now it's just pretty well laying on top and it's cold by the time I pick it up. So 22.50. Don't really have to worry about losing brass, but also we don't have to worry about barrel heat because I'm freezing and I'm sure the gun is too. Now, all the complaining aside, we are going to next fire a group with 28.5 grains of Stay Ball 6.5. We're going to be going for the top right diamond. Yes, that one went way high. 21.28. Oh my word. 21.20. And 21.05. Man, these groups are awful. Average muzzle velocity of 21.18, extreme spread of 23, and a standard deviation of 9.6, so less than 10, which is still single digits. But I'm actually like kind of impressed with how good some of the velocity consistencies are on some of these, and yet how crappy the groups are, because I know we're switching back and forth between powders pretty quickly, but even then, usually if a gun likes a bullet, or if a barrel likes a bullet, they'll shoot a lot better than that right out of the gate. So we're gonna move on. I just imagine the rest of the test is gonna go like this. So I might have picked the wrong barrel to test this bullet in. I'm sorry, guys. I don't like to just totally trash companies, but like sometimes I just pick the wrong component for the thing that I'm testing it in, and just doesn't do a very good showing of it. Like, I'm not trying to, I'm not sponsored by anybody, so I don't really answer to anyone as far as what the kind of performance I'm putting out is, but so far, this just ain't looking good. But anyway, we are moving on to 27.0 grains of lever evolution, and we're gonna put 3 rounds on the left side of the center diamond. 2295, 2250, 2250. All right, so we are seeing a trend. First shot is going high on the last 3 groups, I think, and then the next 2 are falling right in there next to each other. So that's kind of interesting. I think that first group even did the same thing. I don't know about the second one. There really wasn't a whole lot of vertical spread on those. It was more horizontal, but 4 out of the 5 groups that we've shot so far are kind of doing the exact same thing. So I'm starting to wonder if this thing's got a really bad thermal shift, because when you shoot one round and it goes one place and then every round follows into a totally different spot, that's a pretty good indication of that. So we're gonna keep shooting, but I'm starting to get an idea of maybe a habit that this barrel has, which is not a good one. All right, so the velocity consistency was a little more spread out on this one, or quite a lot more. But the average muzzle velocity was 2265, extreme spread of 45, and a standard deviation of 21. So I know all these are slow. You guys keep giving me crap for that in the comments, but again, when I'm new to a cartridge, I don't like to just shoot straight for the max charge, because I've seen sometimes where that can get a little sketchy. So as far as not destroying brass right out of the gate, especially when it's expensive to begin with, we're doing small groups, or rather small sample sizes. So we're doing 3-round groups instead of 5 or 10-round groups, which also gets expensive. But we are also using modest charges, because sometimes the max charge is not even the max charge. It's like 10% over the max charge in the gun that I'm shooting. So I would rather be cautious and safe and not blow up a gun, blow up my face, or, you know, just have a bad experience that day. And also don't destroy brass. But anyway, we're gonna be moving on. So done a lot of ranting in this video, I feel like. 27.5 grains of CFE 223 is going to be our next group, and we're going to be shooting for the right side of the center diamond. Go in the hole, come on. This shooting mat is sliding all over the place, and it's honestly a really big pain in the rear. It's not something I'm used to dealing with at all. All right, 27.5 grains of CFE 223 going to the right side of the center diamond. 2310. That went way to left. Oh my gosh. Nothing is shooting good. 2249. 2257. It's doing the same thing. You got 2 grouped up and one that's just kind of hanging out over an open space there. All right, so the velocity on that one was not consistent. We had an average muzzle velocity of 2272, a extreme spread of 61, and a standard deviation of 27. So that was really bad. We're going to be moving on to the bottom half of the target, and we're going to be starting off with, don't you fall out of there, 26.5 grains of hydrogen BLC2, and we're going to be going for the bottom left diamond. All right, 26.5 grains of BLC2, bottom left diamond. 2220, 2214, and 2221. That was not a good group, but that's by far the best group that we've shot all day. So like right now, that's a good group, but it's still not good. The velocity consistency on that one was great though. Average muzzle velocity of 2218, extreme spread of 7, and a standard deviation of 3. So it makes sense why it put them all quite a bit closer together on the target, but even then it's still not really something that we're wanting to see. I mean, it's a proof research barrel, so not cheap by any means, and it's definitely not proving to shoot very well so far, but again, it's one bullet, right? So it might shoot some El Cheapo, you know, like a spear bullet, just lights out all in one hole. Like I've seen it half dozen times, where just because they're spending more money on the bullet doesn't mean that the gun's going to shoot it better, or the barrel. So anyway, off to a pretty poor start, but that was definitely by far our best group, as sad as that is. The velocity consistency was awesome, but the accuracy has just been really lackluster. So we're going to be moving on to 27.0 grains of accurate 2520. Okay, so this is going to be kind of hard to describe, but we're essentially going to be shooting between the bottom left diamond and the bottom of the center post. So like, it's going to be in the bottom left part of the target, but it's going to be between the left diamond and then that center bar there, just because I'm trying to keep it more in the open, and since these aren't shooting so good, I really don't know where they're going to go, so I'm just going to pick one of the little crosshair looking spots on the target where all the lines meet up, and we'll just try to put it out in the open so you can see it. 27 grains of 2520. 2312. 2300. 2289. Okay, so obviously accuracy was trash as usual, but our average muzzle velocity was 2300, extreme spread of 23, and a standard deviation of 9. So the velocity was still very consistent, but just accuracy is not there. So last group of the day, which I can only imagine is just going to shoot in a one ragged hole, will be 24.5 grains of accurate 2460. All right, 24.5 grains of 2460 going on the bottom right diamond. 2377. All right, we did have a jam on that one. So this one dinged up the shoulder of the case, but we're still going to shoot it. It just doesn't look real pretty. Oh man, how did, what? Oh crap. My freaking dexterity on my fingers is so bad right now. Oh my word. That should go. 2199. Oh my. Well, this one's gonna do well. 2200. So velocity is going to be absolute garbage on this one. Oh my goodness. Average muzzle velocity of 2259, extreme spread of 178, and a standard deviation of 84. Friggin' unreal. So obviously some powders do better than others when you're looking at different burn ranges and stuff. This barrel didn't like that one. So the whole point of this video was to add to the series for the Aeromatch bullets that I'm doing right now. I planned on doing all of the new Hornady Aeromatch bullets, as in each caliber, and they even have 2 offerings for 22 caliber and 2 offerings for 30 cal. So I wanted to test them, especially as they're pretty well brand new right now, so that you guys can see performance on paper and kind of know what to expect. Unfortunately, these did not fare well at all, so I'm not going to blame the bullets because this gun's still new to me, so I don't know of anything that shoots good in this gun yet because I just haven't played with it enough yet. But this is the only host gun that would actually handle this heavy of a 6mm bullet. So not a good showing right out of the gate. Sorry about that, but that's going to conclude this video. I want to say thank you guys for watching and for supporting the channel, because it helps me tremendously to continue coming out here when it's like miserably cold and stuff like that. So anyway, appreciate y'all. Don't forget to glorify God. Y'all stay risen, and we'll see you in the next video.